Hi, everybody. Welcome to my webinar today, the Autoimmune and Gut Connection. So thank you so much for tuning in. This is my second webinar on the gut. So last couple weeks ago, we went over beating the bloat and certain things that can influence your digestion. And now we're going to take it a step further and really look at how the gut is related to autoimmune conditions. So I have the chat enabled, I think. So if you have any questions, let me know. I'll just say hi to everybody. It's a new feature that I'm trying out, so hopefully it'll work. And again, we'll do another lovely PowerPoint. Okay. So again, today is the autoimmune disease and gut connection. Always, there's a disclaimer. I just want to let you know that I'm not here to provide medical advice, diagnose, or treat you, and that everything provided today is for general information purposes only. All right, so autoimmune disease in general is extremely prevalent. It affects about 50 million Americans. And autoimmune disease is very vast. So it includes rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, multiple sclerosis, psoriasis, skin issues in general, celiac disease, thyroid disease, and many hard to classify syndromes of this current century. Autoimmune disease is characterized by your immune system fighting something, such as an infection, toxin, or allergen, food, or also the stress responses implicated in autoimmune disease. And what happens is your immune system is very potent, and it accidentally redirects its hostile attack on your joints and your tissue. And so if it's targeting your brain, you have MS. If it targets your joints, you have rheumatoid arthritis. The pancreas, type 1 diabetes, and like, for instance, the intestine would be celiac disease. What is conventional autoimmune disease treatment? Well, right now, autoimmune disease is a huge health burden. It's the 8th leading cause of death among women, shortening the average patient's lifespan by 8 years. The annual healthcare cost of autoimmune disease is $120 billion a year, representing nearly twice the economic healthcare burden of cancer, which is about $70 billion per year. And right now, conventional treatment for autoimmune disease focuses more on relieving symptoms because right now there is no curative therapy in conventional treatment. Treatments would include anti-inflammatory drugs, immune suppressants, TNF alpha blockers, and side effects from these can lead to intestinal bleeding, kidney failure, depression, psychosis, osteoporosis, muscle loss, diabetes, and a very much increased risk of infection, and then also cancer. From a more functional medicine approach or functional nutrition approach, there's a huge link between autoimmune disease and a small part genetics and the larger part stressors, and then the microbiome or the gut. So from a epigenetic standpoint, genes are not your destiny. Scientists believe that environment determines 70 to 95% of the risk of developing autoimmune problems. This is aside from celiac disease. There's a stronger correlation between developing celiac disease and having certain genes. But also, the environment influences your risk of obesity, heart disease, and mental health problems. Again, this field is called epigenetics, and it's a newer field of research. And basically what they have found is that cellular variations are typically caused by external or environmental factors that switch genes on or off, and affect how cells read genes instead of being caused by changes in the DNA sequence. So this field is amazing and ever growing. When I say environment, you're probably wondering, okay, well, what does that mean? The environment that you are in includes what you eat, what you drink, what you breathe in, what you bathe in, how you move, and even how you think and interact with other people. What really matters, is how your genes interact with the accumulation of your environment / stressors, and basically healthier choices can turn off harmful genes and turn on more health promoting ones. This is amazing information to really grasp. And another important thing to note is how the immune system interacts with the environment. So in our case as humans, besides our skin, the gastrointestinal tract is the other interface with the environment that we have. All right, so my focus in nutrition is really bolstering gut health. So we're gonna go over here a little slide about gut appreciation. So to put everything into perspective, the gut is a hollow tube that is about 20 to 25 feet long. And when you splay it all out, it covers 3,000 square feet, which is the size of a tennis court. That is huge. That's a huge surface area. And when you think about the depth of it, it's only 1 cell thick. The gut works by protecting the rest of the body from the harmful toxins and microbes in the environment. So how it does that, being only 1 cell thick, is it has tight junctions between each of the cells. And it is very specific to what it allows through. And these tight junctions can open and close depending on what your body needs. So when you eat, it lets single blocks of amino acids or proteins through, or single sugars through from your carbohydrates. And it's normally a formidable barrier that keeps the bad guys out, like I mentioned, the bacteria and toxins and other elements that can trigger autoimmune responses. Besides providing protection and absorption, the gut also produces most of the body's serotonin levels, and there's a lot of research right now linking gut health and depression. The gut also houses 75% of the body's immune system, which seems amazing, but then if you think about how we interact a lot with our environment through our gut, it's really important for our immune system to be there and protect us if there is something that we eat that is toxic or full of harmful microbes. And also, the gut houses thousands of microbes, and it mostly is healthy, but again, it can be unhealthy. As Hippocrates once said, who's the father of medicine, all disease begins in the gut. He said this thousands of years ago, and we're finding that he's right. Okay, so magnificent microbes. We got all these microbes in the body and in the gut. What's their role? Well, to give you perspective on things, microbes on the body, so skin and gut, number to the hundreds of trillions. Now, we can't grasp that number. So really, when you think about it, we have more microorganisms in our body than there are stars in the Milky Way. Right now, the microbiome or microbes are compared to an extra organ that we have, since together, all of the microbes in our body weigh about 3 pounds, which is the same weight as your brain. And research is finding that the microbes perform countless functions in our body, from helping our digestion to affecting our mood. And really, this is research that's just now starting to be grasped. Now, when we think about our whole body containing hundreds of trillions of bacteria, let's look at just our gut. Our gut contains 10 times more bacteria than all human cells in our body, with over 400 known diverse bacterial species. And this is known as the gut flora. The gut flora promotes normal gastrointestinal function, and they also make vitamins that our body needs, like vitamin K and B vitamins. These healthy gut flora provide protection from infection of harmful microbes by competing for gut space against the bad guys. And it also helps regulate the metabolism as well as interact with the immune system. So back to autoimmune disease, the trifecta of autoimmune disease is a combination of some genetics and then also environment and leaky gut. And you can see in this chart here by Dr. Josh Axe, it's a vicious circle. So you start with intestinal inflammation of the gut lining, which can cause nutrient malabsorption. It triggers an immune response, which then leads to multiple food intolerances and eventually autoimmune disease, and it can recirculate. So we're going to kind of go over each of these sections here. You may have heard the term leaky gut. Some of you may not have ever heard it before. So what this means is leaky gut occurs when there's a breakdown in the barrier of the intestinal wall that then allows substances to enter the bloodstream that normally wouldn't be there, which would result in immune system activation and inflammation. So from a functional nutrition standpoint, it's important to identify the root causes of leaky gut, and identifying the root causes and restoring leaky gut are at the core of reversing the autoimmune process in the body. So the first part, as you can see from Dr. Josh Axe's figure here, there's gut inflammation. So if you think about your digestive tract as a net of some sort with extremely small holes, so you can even think about cheesecloth, where it only allows specific substances to pass through. And that's how your gut works. Your gut is a barrier keeping out bigger particles that can damage your system or leak into your bloodstream. When someone has leaky gut, which is also referred to as increased intestinal permeability, this cheesecloth or this net in your digestive tract gets damaged, and it causes even bigger holes to this cheesecloth, and it allows substances that normally can't pass through into your bloodstream. Some of these substances that can pass through can include proteins like gluten, bad bacteria, and undigested food particles. Toxic waste can also leak from the inside of your intestinal wall into your bloodstream, also triggering an immune response. All of these substances can even over time elicit an even more exaggerated immune response. And what happens then is your body can begin to assault its own tissue. And not only do you get the systemic attack on your tissues, but then locally in your digestive tract, there's inflammation, which then can cause malabsorption of zinc, iron, B12, and magnesium. And the way that the process typically works is initially you don't really feel sick, but then you might find from a blood test or even just how you feel that you have multiple food allergies. Eventually, you might have immune system issues, and then full-blown autoimmune disease and organ failure. One of these main factors is leaky gut, like we've covered. And now it's important to talk about, okay, how does leaky gut occur? What triggers this leaky gut in the body? And some of the main causes include chronic stress, toxin overload, bacterial imbalance, and poor diet, consisting of the standard American diet or the SAD diet, which is high in sugar, conventional dairy, lots of gluten, some GMOs, and unsprouted grains. And like I mentioned earlier too, one of the biggest warning signs that you may have leaky gut can be that you're experiencing multiple food sensitivities, especially to the foods that you commonly eat. Partially digested protein from these foods can seep in through your intestinal lining, making their way into your bloodstream and causing an allergic response. And another lovely diagram by Dr. Josh Axe points out all of the different causes. And then these are gap junctions here, tight junctions that have a gap, letting all of these through into the bloodstream, causing multiple immune reactions. All right, so one of the causes of leaky gut is chronic stress. Stress over time weakens your immune system, which cripples your ability to fight off foreign invaders like bacteria and viruses, leading to inflammation and leaky gut. Second cause of leaky gut is toxins. Did you know that we come in contact with over 80,000 chemicals and toxins every year? And some of the worst offenders for causing leaky gut include widely used antibiotics, widely used pesticides, our tap water, aspirin, and other NSAIDs. And a lot of these chemicals actually are not even tested to see if they impact human health. Toxins can alter DNA, produce gene mutations that change tissues, and then because these are mutated, the immune system can attack these tissues since they're not identical or identifiable to your healthy tissues. Toxins can also alter gene expression by turning on genes that promote inflammation, which then can produce autoimmunity and leaky gut. Other toxins can include heavy metals. So pay attention to your fish intake. Try to eat fish that are lower in mercury. Also, mercury fillings can provide your body with excess mercury levels. Plastics, BPA is a big one. So try to have your water container in glass or stainless steel. Avoid foods in cans, especially acidic or basic foods in cans, because that can leach the BPA liner. Our food, if you're not having organic food, that can provide pesticides, herbicides, the Bt toxin from GMOs. It'll have preservatives, additives, colorings, Teflon from nonstick cookware. Oops, sorry about that. And aflatoxins on peanuts and grains. Other environmental chemicals include chlorine found in our water, fluoride found in our water, bromine, xylene, dioxin, etc., etc. Another way to prevent toxins from entering your body is getting a really good high quality water filter to eliminate chlorine, fluoride, and other contaminants found in our water like pharmaceuticals. And if you are feeling like sore from exercising or just in general, there's a lot of herbs that can reduce inflammation in your body, including tart cherry. I do tart cherry pills. There's also tart cherry concentrate, but that tends to be higher in sugar. And then turmeric, which is an Indian spice, that's also really high in anti-inflammatory properties. With turmeric, if you are wanting to add it to your food, you always want to eat it with a fat. And also pepper helps with increase the absorption. So I usually put it on my eggs with a little pat of butter and some fresh ground pepper. Okay, a third cause of leaky gut is dysbiosis. Dysbiosis is a fancy term which implies imbalances between beneficial and harmful species of the microbiota in your gut. This also is in reference to having harmful overgrowth in your small intestine where there really shouldn't be a lot of bacteria. Also including harmful yeast and parasites that can make its way into your gut. This imbalance can begin right at birth because of C-sections or because the mother herself didn't have a healthy gut. Another avenues to leaky gut via dysbiosis include overuse of prescription antibiotic drugs, tap water with chlorine and fluoride, the lack of probiotic-rich foods, low stomach acid, and low digestive enzyme output. And that, if you want more detail on that, the low stomach acid and the digestive enzyme output, you can learn more of that from the Beat the Bloat webinar that I did a couple of weeks ago. One thing about dysbiosis is that it can be pretty difficult to treat on your own without the oversight of a health practitioner. A health practitioner can help you figure out what exactly is causing the dysbiosis. They can narrow it down, and then they can give you targeted supplements depending on what exactly is causing the overgrowth. Okay, so now we have dietary factors that can influence your gut and cause leaky gut. Unsprouted grains can be a cause, and this may be new information for some of you, but the problem with eating a lot of unsprouted grains is that they contain large amounts of anti-nutrients or nutrient blockers called phytates and lectins. Lectins are sugar-binding proteins that act as a natural defense system for plants and protect them from outside invaders like mold and parasites. This is really great news for the plants, but bad news for your body. Your digestive lining is covered with sugar-containing cells that help break down your food, and these lectins gravitate towards this area where they can attach to your digestive lining and then cause damage to your gut and ultimately promote inflammation. One way around this is by sprouting and soaking and fermenting your grains. This reduces phytates and lectins, which makes foods easier to digest. One thing important to note is that GMO and hybridized foods tend to be the highest in lectins since they've been modified to fight off bugs. Another dietary factor for promoting leaky gut is gluten-containing grains. Now, this is going to be maybe a little bit more biochemistry than what people are used to, but I think it's important to really break it down. So gluten is a protein found in wheat, barley, rye, spelt, and kamut. One of the gluten components of this protein is called gliadin, which is a picture on the right here. So if you took gluten and you magnified it to look at just the amino acid structure or this protein structure on gluten, this is just gliadin. And gliadin causes a chemical called zonulin to release in gut epithelial cells. Bacteria in the small intestine, which we covered a couple slides ago, dysbiosis, also releases zonulin. All right, so what is this zonulin and how does it influence leaky gut? Well, researcher here, he's actually a pioneer, Alessio Fasano, he found out that zonulin opens up the spaces between the cells of the intestinal lining. So remember those tight junctions that we talked about? Well, zonulin is like a key that completely opens these tight junctions up and actively causes leaky gut. And so leaky gut lets large food molecules in, and then the immune system will think that these food molecules are invaders and then mount an immune response leading to food sensitivities. And this is a vicious cycle. The immune activation leads to more damage to the intestinal cells, and the gut becomes more inflamed and more permeable or leaky. And remember, 75% of the immune system is in the gut. All right, so the zonulin, okay, cool, but I don't have celiac disease, so how does that relate to me? Well, gliadin causes zonulin levels to increase both in people who have celiac disease and those who do not. In people with gluten sensitivity, they get some gastrointestinal inflammation, but they don't get the blunting and destruction of the villi as some people with celiac disease get. In other words, there is a short increase in permeability, but that increase is long enough to allow gluten to come through, and it allows that immune system then to generate an inflammatory response that's not as severe as typically seen in celiac disease, but it still promotes that inflammation. This leaky gut causes leakage of intestinal contents like bacteria into the immune system, creating inflammation and overloading the liver's ability to filter out this garbage. It's estimated that 18 million Americans have gluten sensitivity, which is 6 times the amount of Americans who have celiac disease. Researchers also found that rates of gluten sensitivity increase with having an autoimmune disease. Research also shows evidence that today's hybridized, high-yield, semi-dwarf wheat foods from the 1960s, which is a shout out to the U of M for this creation, are actually higher in gluten and can be another reason why there's such an increased problem with gluten sensitivity. The reason that strains that are higher in gluten have been favored is because it helps give a more desirable consistency to breads, and therefore food processors really like to have that for their products. Now, if you're thinking about going gluten-free, oats are commonly tainted with gluten, and gluten can actually be found in prescription medications, cosmetics, and even hair products like shampoos. Also, foods can cross-react with gluten that don't typically have gluten. So if you follow a strict gluten-free lifestyle, yet if you suffer from symptoms related to gluten, it could be that you're eating foods that do not contain gluten, but your body reacts to them if they do. And this process is called cross-reactivity. There are a number of naturally gluten-free foods such as cheese, chocolate, and coffee that contain proteins so similar to gluten that your body confuses them for gluten. So if you can see in this figure here, your body, so this is like a receptor, and this is an antigen, and this is gliadin, so it completely evokes this reactive response. Now, let's say you're avoiding gluten, but you're still having milk, which has casein. It's not quite the same structure, but it still activates that inflammation response. And then if you have an apple, maybe it locks into it a little bit, but it's not enough to cause an inflammatory response. Basically, when you eat foods that can be cross-reactive, your body, then your immune system reacts to it as if you just ate a whole bowl of whole wheat pasta. It's estimated that at least half of those who are gluten intolerant may also be sensitive to dairy due to its high cross-reactivity with gluten. And then also there's a list of about 19 other foods that can cross-react with gluten. Additional dietary factors include conventional dairy that can cause leaky gut. The chemicals and medications given to conventional dairy cows can harm the gut. And then there's also the type of proteins found in dairy can influence inflammatory responses. So there's a chemical component in dairy called protein A1 casein that can irritate your gut. And there's a few different proteins that that dairy can have depending on the breed or the type of animal. So cow, goat, buffalo, sheep, etc. So there's A1 and A2 beta casein, and A1 is typically found in US dairy cows. And these two proteins differ by just one amino acid, which is a building block of protein. But the effects in the body are completely different in how it's broken down. So A1 beta casein gives rise to a compound called BCM7, while A2 proteins from goat, sheep, buffalo do not. Now this beta casomorphine compound activates opioid receptors, which has multiple potential effects on health and behavior. And they're also linking this to autism. But also it stimulates mucus production, and animal studies show that it promotes gut inflammation. So if you find that you're sensitive to typical cow milk, then you can try milk from A2 beta casein animals like goats, sheep, or buffalo. And some cows do have A2 protein, but I don't have that information on hand right now. I should have added that. I apologize, but you can research different breeds that have A2 protein. However, it still can cause issues due to some cross-reactivity problems. Oops. Okay, and then the other dietary factor is sugar. So sugar can fuel dysbiosis. Sugar is the primary food source for yeast and candida and bad breath. And these can all outcompete your healthy bacteria and cause damage to your intestinal lining. In addition, bad bacteria actually cause toxins called exotoxins that further damage healthy cells and can physically eat a hole into your intestinal wall. We just went over all of the different causes of leaky gut and how the environment interacts with your gut health. So here's a 4-step plan to heal leaky gut. And this is the general protocol that I've used with my clients that has helped them see incredible results. And this 4-step process includes removing foods and factors that damage the gut, replacing your diet with healing foods, repairing your gut with specific supplements, and then rebalancing with probiotics. So the first step is remove. So remember that the top foods to remove that cause leaky gut are sugar, grains, and then conventional meat, conventional dairy, and GMO foods like soy and corn. Foods that can also trigger immune responses include nuts, eggs, soy, corn, and nightshades like potatoes, peppers, eggplant, and tomato. If you want to jump right into a diet change, paleo can be a really great place to start since it naturally eliminates most of the autoimmune triggers. However, you can take that a step further by following an autoimmune paleo-based diet, and that's what I tend to follow along with certain targeted supplements. And the autoimmune paleo diet eliminates all food triggers for autoimmune diseases. Then you can replace your diet with healing foods. The first one being bone broth, which contains collagen and the amino acids proline and glycine that can help heal your damaged cell walls. And you can buy bone broth from a co-op, or even better, you can make some at your own house. All you need is some beef bones, a whole chicken, chicken bones, chicken feet, and then some apple cider vinegar, and you just let it sit on your counter in your slow cooker for a few days, and it breaks it down nicely, and that's a really great healing broth, and there's multiple recipes on the web. Second healing food are fermented vegetables. So fermented vegetables contain organic acids that balance intestinal pH, and they also provide probiotics to support the gut. Fermented foods include sauerkraut, kimchi, kvass. I typically like to have kombucha, and I make it at home, and it's a fermented tea originating from China. And if you do buy these fermented foods like sauerkraut or kimchi, make sure you're getting it from the refrigerated section. That implies that it's a living food, which has probiotics. The third healing food would include coconut products. All coconut products are especially good for your gut. The medium chain fatty acids in coconut are easy to digest, and they also contain antimicrobial properties. So if you're having some dysbiosis, then the coconut products can help kill those bad bacteria while keeping your healthy bacteria alive and thriving. Coconut kefir is also a fermented yogurt that if you find that you're sensitive to dairy, you can try coconut kefir to also get some probiotics in. In addition to bone broth, fermented vegetables, and coconut products, foods that have high omega-3 fats are beneficial and have anti-inflammatory properties. Finding omega-3s in your diet can come from things like grass-fed beef, lamb, and wild-caught fish, and avocados, chia seeds. Those are all really high in omega-3s. Repairing your gut along with removing and replacing is really important. Digestive enzymes can be super helpful, taken at the beginning of each meal, and that helps make sure that your foods are fully digested, which decreases the chance of partially digested food particles and proteins leaking through and causing inflammatory conditions. L-glutamine is another critical supplement for any program designed to heal leaky gut. Glutamine powder is an essential amino acid supplement that has anti-inflammatory properties and is also necessary for the growth and repair of your intestinal lining. It also acts as a protector, coating your cell walls, and acts as a repellent for 2 irritants. And you can take 2 to 5 grams twice daily. Licorice root, or deglycyrrhizated licorice, aka DGL, is an adaptogenic herb that helps balance cortisol levels and improves acid production in the stomach. So if you have low stomach acid, licorice root is your herb. And it supports the body's natural process of maintaining the mucosal lining of the stomach and duodenum. It's also really, really beneficial for someone who has chronic stress levels, as it can help your body manage stress. If you don't get DGL licorice, but if you get the glycyrrhizic acid, it can increase blood pressure, fluid retention, and cause low potassium levels. So it's really important to get the DGL type of licorice root. Okay, and then quercetin has also been shown to improve the gut barrier function by sealing the gut, as it supports the creation of tight junction proteins. It also helps stabilize your immune system via the mast cells and reduces the release of histamine, which is common in food intolerance. New studies have shown that it's effective in healing ulcerative colitis. Also, the 4th component is rebalancing with probiotics. Probiotics are the most important supplement to take because it helps replenish good bacteria and crowds out bad bacteria. I recommend getting probiotics in both food and supplement form. Inoculating your gut with beneficial bacteria will help, again, keep those bad bacteria at bay. Loading up on probiotic-rich foods like kombucha, sauerkraut, and kefir every day is great, and then taking a high-quality probiotic supplement with at least 50 billion units, or also on the label listed as CFUs, colony-forming units, with multi-strains of bacteria is going to give you the best benefit, and I recommend taking it at night. Additional lifestyle recommendations for anyone with an autoimmune condition and just for general health: get adequate sleep, because that's when your body's going to heal itself, and that's when your liver is going to detoxify. Certain recommendations for getting good sleep would be avoiding blue light stimulation, which is found from TVs, phones, and tablet screens. And you want to avoid those for at least 2 hours before bed. If you absolutely cannot avoid electronics for those 2 hours, then what I recommend would be downloading an application or an app called Flux, F.LUX, and that is compatible with computers, and it actively eliminates the blue light, so your screen becomes more of an orange color, and that can help you with avoiding that blue light if you need to be on your computer at night. It's also really important to aim for a minimum of 8 to 9 hours of sleep per night and trying to get to bed before 10 p.m. if possible. And as far as temperature, try to make sure that your house or your bedroom is cool at night. Cool temperature is essential for good sleep. And also, pitch black room is also important because your eyes are very sensitive to light, and that can influence your melatonin levels. And what I recommend is either getting completely dark, thick curtains, or if that's not an option, just getting yourself an eye cover. Exercise is another lifestyle recommendation. Moving your body is important to maintaining health and healing, but also know your limits. So pushing too hard or too fast can actually delay your recovery. Give yourself adequate rest time and only do what your body is telling you it can handle. and do something that your body enjoys. In addition, long duration endurance exercises deplete cortisol and promote inflammation. And it's best to avoid doing this and opting for more relaxing exercises or short-term exercises of high intensity. So walking, hiking, yoga, Pilates, or weightlifting for about 10 to 15 minutes at a time is perfectly okay. Talk to your doctor about what they recommend for your exercise levels, of course. But if you have any questions or want to start an exercise routine, you can certainly view my How to Start an Exercise Routine webinar for more information. Last few things here: reduce your stress levels as best you can by getting more sleep, scheduling fun into your week, resting 1 day a week, meditating, and hanging out with positive, uplifting people. We will also discuss this in more detail tonight, which is slow down while you eat. And the reason is that if you eat without paying attention, or you eat fast, or there's a variety of things, but if you don't really focus on eating and slowing down and being aware, then that also activates the stress response. So we'll cover that tonight in our book club, which is covering the slow down diet. Lastly, clean up your life as much as you can. So choose organic foods, which there's a list of the Clean 15 and the Terrible 20, avoiding GMOs, which you can by buying organic. Choose more natural cleaning products and personal care products to reduce the toxic burden of your body. Our skin is our largest organ, and it is also very absorptive. So if you are putting on chemicals on your skin, you can guarantee that it's also in your body. And check out natural cleaners. They can be really inexpensive. There's coconut oil is a great cleanser, as well as essential oils. Lemon, vinegar, all of those things can be natural cleaners. And then this is just a list of the Clean 15 and then the the Terrible 20. It used to be the Dirty Dozen, but now it's the Terrible 20. All right, that was the presentation. I just want to let you know of some future events that are coming up. The next event is the book club discussing the slow down diet. That is tonight at 7 p.m. at Studio 2, which is a coffee shop and wine bar. You do not need to have the book read, so we'll see you there. And then the next webinar that we're having is the New Year's Resolutionist Guide to a Sugar Detox. That's on Sunday, January 3rd at 3. And if you want, you can join the New Year's Resolution Detox group. And this group is perfect for you if your goal is to be healthier in 2016, but want to do it with other people who are also working on their health and who are there to support you along the way. The way that the group will be set up is we will all meet 3 times in January via Google Hangouts, which is what we're on right now, on Sunday evenings in January. And during the first meet, we'll send out a food list, and we'll also introduce each other. We'll have great discussion. There'll be support from everybody, and you can even meet some new friends. So space is going to be limited to 9 people to join this group. It's $20 per person, and you can RSVP at meetup.com by searching the Minneapolis Holistic Nutrition Group. All right, so thank you so much for your time today. I don't see anything in the chat box, so I'll leave it at that. If you have any questions, feel free to email me, find me on that meetup group, and I hope you have a wonderful day. And if you've got some free time tonight, I'll meet you at Studio 2.